There's a tiny detail in Animal Crossing New Leaf that many players have never noticed. It might seem unremarkable at first, but if you pay attention, it reflects something deeper about what makes this game so special. I'm going to show you why the humble bench might be one of New Leaf's most overlooked features, and why that matters more than you might think. But this video isn't simply about benches, rather what they enable the player to notice about the magical world in which they inhabit. Before New Leaf, decorating outdoors was remarkably limited. I remember the windmill and lighthouse in city folk feeling perpetually unobtainable, as to build them, a 1 million bell donation to the town fund was required. Public works projects in New Leaf fundamentally changed our relationship with the virtual towns we inhabited. Suddenly, we could make meaningful choices about our town's identity through carefully placed structures, a total of 105 projects to choose from. But it wasn't as simple as just placing them at will. The majority of projects began with a suggestion from a villager, certain projects locked behind specific personality types. The number of projects available, combined with the infrequency of villager requests, made the process, at times, feel both magical and maddening. I don't want to discuss how many hours I've spent trying to manipulate villager pings to increase the chance of projects being requested, but even then, success is never guaranteed. To this day, I've never received the mind-shatteringly beautiful and iconic wisteria trellis or instrument shelter, though my villagers love requesting monstrosities such as the drilling rig, caution sign, and parabolic antenna. This element of chance created a unique relationship with town development, one where patience became part of the experience rather than an obstacle to it. Even after receiving the suggestion you wanted, funding these projects revealed another layer of the game's philosophy. A player named Dagnall once conducted an experiment to see how long it would take villagers to fund a project on their own. He found that it would take 378 in-game days for villagers to pay off a bridge, but even then, he still had to make the final donation himself. While frustrating, the game seemed to be quietly telling us something important. Building our town required both patience and personal investment. Each completed project didn't just change how our town looked, it represented time, effort, and choice. This stands in stark contrast to New Horizons, where you can drop furniture from your inventory onto the ground in seconds. The convenience and freedom is undeniable, but something subtle was lost in that transition. The special sense of accomplishment that comes from working towards something over time. There's just something uniquely magical about walking through your wisteria trellis, ringing your gong, or checking your weather forecast for the first time. Opportunities to practice the art of delayed gratification in a world of shortening attention spans are becoming rarer and rarer. Maybe this is why I appreciate New Leaf's insistence on taking a step back and admiring the fruits of your efforts.
We did it!
But there is one public works project that I feel demonstrates this more than the rest. There are 8 different benches in your town that you can build as public works projects. The yellow bench, the blue bench, the wood bench, the metal bench, the log bench, the modern bench, the fairy tale bench, and the zen bench. These benches range in price from 30k bells to 52.8k bells to construct. Once completed, these benches can be sat on by the player and villagers. The second half of that sentence might come as a surprise to you. Some veteran players with thousands of hours in their towns report never having seen a villager sitting on a bench. Interestingly, others describe sightings as uncommon but still occurring. There are even people who've spent over a decade playing New Leaf without even realizing that this was possible. From my research into making this video, it seems nobody really knows what triggers this chance encounter. There's no documented pattern or obvious rules that seem to dictate its frequency. When I first played New Leaf as a teenager, I always opted to place my benches in quiet, scenic outlook points, where they never seemed to attract any attention from my villagers. In my current town, Pinecone, I wanted to test my hypothesis that bench location plays a part in its frequency of use by villagers. I began my bench placement journey strategically, identifying several high-traffic Animal Crossing zones where paths naturally crossed and villagers frequently wandered. Whilst by no means a scientific experiment, I am surprised to reveal that this has actually led to a notable increase in bench sitting. I still haven't seen villagers sitting on benches placed in more secluded spots, lending weight to the theory that bench placement is in fact pivotal in encouraging their use. Even though I've managed to artificially increase bench usage by villagers, it still happens infrequently enough to maintain its magic. Seeing one of my frogs taking a moment to rest on a bench I intentionally placed for them to use feels like I've stumbled upon a moment that wasn't created for me, but I was lucky enough to witness. Perhaps most intriguing is 2 villagers sharing a bench together. The game's wiki seems to hint that this is possible, although I haven't been able to find any concrete evidence of this. I've also spent hours wondering about the code behind these encounters. What hidden probabilities govern these moments? What unseen factors might influence when and where they occur? Is there a hidden friendship level that must be reached before villagers choose to sit on benches? Or is it purely random, a cosmic alignment of digital chance? I think that the fact that we're still discussing these theories and asking these questions 13 years after the game's released really speaks to how special New Leaf is. It's a game that continues to surprise us, hiding little secrets that can't be forced or rushed.
Sometimes sitting on our town's yellow bench while I read helps me to concentrate.
If you spot a villager on a bench and approach them, you'll be given the opportunity to experience what I believe to be one of New Leaf's most special moments. Hopping up onto a bench alongside a villager will see your character and that villager lean ever so slightly in towards each other and appear to share some words. But importantly, we as the player never get to know what these words are. There's no special reward behind this encounter, no achievement unlocked, just a quiet exchange that we as players aren't privy to. It's one of the rare moments where the game deliberately keeps us at a distance, letting us witness but not participate in these private conversations. I've heard some people describe this interaction as gossiping, which captures perfectly the feeling of being excluded from the exchange. Somehow, being left out makes the world feel more real, more alive, as if these characters exist beyond our presence, with their own private thoughts and conversations. I've noticed that something changes when you sit on a bench in New Leaf. The familiar sounds of the game take on new dimensions. Cicadas seem to sing more clearly, stars appear to twinkle more brightly, even the whoosh of a balloon floating overhead feels somehow more significant. It's as if the simple act of sitting lets you tune into a frequency of the game's world that's always been there, just waiting to be noticed. In a medium that often rewards constant movement and activity, there's something radical about a game that rewards stillness. New Leaf never forces you to sit down. Yet in creating these quiet spaces, the game offers something surprisingly rare in gaming. Moments of genuine contemplation where nothing is asked of you except to be present. There's one bench in New Leaf that I find particularly fascinating. If you walk to the edge of Main Street, you'll find it there, the only vertical bench in the game, perched atop a cliff facing an endless ocean of sorts. I often wonder why the developers placed it there. What were they hoping players would feel when they sat at this lonely bench staring out at a horizon they could never reach? It feels like another deliberate invitation, just like the train, for us to fantasize about what lies beyond the boundaries of our small towns. Maybe it was a hint of what was to come on Animal Crossing's New Horizon. Wouldn't it be crazy if I made a video about New Leaf without subtly insulting New Horizons at the same time? Okay, I'll keep it brief. By trying to create a more active and engaging world, New Horizons inadvertently made it feel more artificial and less rewarding. Quick post-production note, I think I may have been too generous with this statement, in my opinion. You can probably tell I have a lot to say on this. Let me know in the comments if you think that I should make a video talking about New Horizons versus New Leaf and my hopes for the next game. Looking back, I think New Leaf's benches capture something so important about what makes this game so memorable. These simple wooden structures offer us an invitation to be still, to observe, to simply exist in a moment. Their power isn't in what they do, but in what they allow us to notice. Leaves dancing in the wind, rain tapping on the rooftops. Precious moments where our virtual neighbours remind us that sometimes the most meaningful parts of life are the ones we simply let unfold. Perhaps that's why, despite newer entries in the series, many of us find ourselves returning to New Leaf. Not because it offers more, but because what it does offer feels somehow more real, more precious, more alive. In a world that constantly demands our attention, there's something quietly revolutionary about a game that rewards us for simply sitting on a bench and watching the world go by. Thanks for making it to the end of my second ever YouTube video. I'm so happy you made it. Comment mango if you're hearing me talk. And don't forget to subscribe because I've got a lot more ideas brewing away and I'm so excited to share them all with you. If you haven't seen my video about trains, I really recommend you go and watch that now. Apologies to anyone who's been waiting for this video to release for ages. I was trying way too hard to make everything perfect and I forgot that perfection is the enemy of the good, or whatever they say. I'm hoping to get into a better swing of things and ramp up production speed whilst also not sacrificing quality because that's very important to me. However, at the same time, I am still extremely new to the whole concept of video editing, voiceovering, etc., but I'm having a great time doing it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below and see you next time. Bye!